Covering music-related content of all genres. If it filters through Eastern Texas, it's fair game. Y'all bring it. From Texarkana down to the coast and Dallas down to Houston and everything in between. We are ETX ROCKS!
Hit the brakes!
Cut! Thank you guys for listening to another episode of ETX ROCKS with Boston Chris. Before we get to our next guest this week, I just wanted to tell you about our sponsor for this episode. He is an award-winning author located right here in East Texas by the name of Edward Hancock II. Edward Hancock II writes the Mendez series of detective thrillers that are based right here in East Texas in the city of Longview. Edward likes to give that local feel that you can't get from novels that are written and based in big cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. If you're interested in looking up Edward Hancock and his great books, check out his webpage at edwardhancockii.com or go to his Facebook, which is facebook.com/author Edward Hancock II. Check out the Mendez series of detective thrillers written by Edward Hancock II.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to ETX ROCKS. We are very grateful to award-winning author Edward Hancock II and Studio 333 for sponsoring this episode. Here's your host, Boston Chris, with another awesome guest.
Thank you, Mandy, for that awesome introduction. We're very excited about our guest for this week. He's charted 10 number one hits. He's had 40 top 10 hits, 66 charted singles, 5 gold albums. He was the Academy of Country Music Most Promising Male Vocalist in 1976. He won the award for Country Music Association Song of the Year in 1979 with It's a Cheating Situation, along with his duet partner, Janie Fricke. He won ACM and CMA Vocal Duet of the Year in 1979, and then also won, in 1980, and also won it with the Academy of Country Music in 1979. He also won American Video of the Year in 1985. He's a member of the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame and the Rodeo Hall of Fame. And last but not least, he was invited to perform at the White House for President Bush, not once, but twice. Ladies and gentlemen, ETX ROCKS is really, really excited to introduce to y'all Mr. Moe Bandy. Having been born in Meridian, Mississippi, the birthplace of Jimmy Rogers, I guess maybe it was natural you'd develop a love for country music. I read a story that your grandfather had worked with the legendary Jimmy Rogers. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was born there in Meridian, Mississippi. My mother's side of the family lived there, and my grandfather worked on the railroad with Jimmy Rogers, and probably the first thing I've heard about music was about Jimmy Rogers and him talking about him. And I was lucky a few years ago, they put up a big plaque in Meridian, Mississippi there down by the railroad yard. It's got my picture on it and tells about that story right there. And I was so honored to get that.
Wow, yeah, I was actually stationed in Meridian for a time at Meridian Air Base for the U.S. Navy. Mm-hmm. So I know I'd heard a lot about you, just growing up in that area as well.
Well, my dad was in the Navy, and he went over there, and that's how he met my mother, actually.
Wow, very cool.
And he went into the war, World War II, in the Navy.
Very cool. So who were some of your other inspirations, both musically and not musically, growing up in Mississippi?
Well, I actually moved to Texas when I was about 6 years old. That was my dad's side of the family. Of course, we went back and forth. But my dad played guitar and sang, and he loved Hank Williams music and Jimmy Rogers music and all this. So I was inspired a lot by my dad. He was a good singer, and my mother was a good singer. And my dad loved Hank Williams, and he loved, all the current music back then. And that's kind of what I was raised on, that type of music.
And that's that you can definitely hear that in your voice through the years too. I mean, I've always kind of I hate to say compared, but you always kind of reminded me of Hank Williams, the way you
Mm-hmm.
sing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
go ahead.
I've always loved Hank Williams' music, and it was easy for me to sing, actually.
Right. And you just mentioned at the age of 6 that your family moved from Meridian to San Antonio. What role do you think? What role do you think that move might have shaped your future life?
Well, I moved to Texas, when I was a kid there, and it was so different for me when I was a little kid, because my grandfather and on my dad's side, they were all they raised cattle, and they were ranchers and that type of thing. Of course, we didn't have a ranch, but my grandfather leased a place there, and so I went from living in Meridian, Mississippi, and over to Texas, and riding horses and working cattle and doing all that. So I was quite in there, but it really inspired me a lot. I do a lot of rodeo songs. We was involved in the sport of rodeo. My grandfather put me on when I was a kid, and I started riding bulls. And it inspired me a lot there.
Wow. So when you were in high school, you were a rodeo rider too, but you suffered injuries that ended a possible career there. Was rodeo your first love, and when did you decide to turn to music?
Well, I wasn't. I'd been playing singing since I was a little kid, and I rode bulls and rodeoed there, and I wasn't as good at it as I wanted to be, and I got beat up and banged up. But music was really where I wanted to go. I loved. My mother put me in all these talent shows, and that was my love was music. I wanted to be a singing cowboy like Gene Autry.
Awesome. So the music was your first love, and your brother is also a rodeo rider. Is that correct?
My brother rode bulls for many years and had a great career in that sport. Went to the national finals 7 times and did very well. And so in our family, the two of us kind of pursued the dreams that my dad had. Actually, he wanted to be a singer, and he wanted to be compete in rodeos. So we just kind of followed that dream.
And I think I read that both of you guys, brothers, are both in the Rodeo Hall of Fame. Is that true?
That's true. We went into the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame together, and I just was thrilled to death about that.
Yeah, that's incredible, because I know that you're also recognized probably in a couple of Hall of Fames for your singing career, but to also be recognized in a sport that's going to be really pretty cool.
Yeah, that was an honor. I'm very proud of him. I got a beautiful buckle, and I wear it all the time. You know?
So in 1964, you're still a teenager, and you landed a record deal with Satin Records and recorded an original song titled Lonely Lady. What was it like for such a young person to be recording and writing your own music?
Well, I was, it's called Lonely Girl, it's a song that I wrote.
Oh, my bad.
And, yeah. And I got a little recording deal there in San Antonio. And it was just a thrill. We went in with my little band, and we cut these songs, and just a thrill. And then one day I was driving down the road, and it came on the radio, the song Lonely Girl. And, man, I had to pull over the side of the road and listen to it, of course. But it really gave me the urge to want to go to Nashville and pursue that. And that was quite a time that you never forget when you hear your first song on the radio. But those songs that I recorded had gotten out there somewhere, and that album is all over Europe. I went to Europe, and that album is all over Europe, and it's not my best work, you know.
Well, it was the first one, you know. So I mean, you still
it was the beginning, yeah.
Right. So many would say that your big break came when you met record producer Ray Baker accidentally on a hunting trip, I think in 1972. A year after meeting Ray, you would record and release one of your most popular songs, which was called "I Just Started Hating Cheating Songs Today." Tell us about your relationship with Mr. Baker, and how did that song that song maybe catapult your career?
Well, I met Ray Baker, and he was a producer. He produced records, and he was a publisher. He had owned a publishing company, and I just wanted to meet somebody from Nashville that had a little pull or something, you know. So I went up and introduced myself and asked him if he'd do something. And so I came to Nashville and paid for the sessions and did that several times and didn't do that well. And some of the songs would be played a little bit in Texas on the local stations, but didn't do that well, and Ray found the song called "I Just Started Hating Cheating Songs Today," and I recorded it, and they put it on the radio and around the country, and it started really playing a lot, and we signed with a label, GRC, and we stayed with them, and I had like 3 chart records there in a row, and it was just a great time because I was following them up with other songs. And then we recorded Bandy the Rodeo Clown, and that was my big record, went #1, and I signed with Columbia Records then.
Yeah, that was a great song. I know I remember listening to that when my dad was, see, we're from Massachusetts, and, you know, country music isn't exactly a huge thing in Massachusetts, but my dad, you know, made sure that I grew up right on traditional country music, and I remember listening to your songs as a small boy, and I'm just thrilled to death to be talking to you today.
Well, I appreciate that a lot, yeah.
So you've had dozens of hits over the years, both as a solo artist and as part of several duos. With great artists like Joe Stampley, Judy Bailey, Janie Fricke, and Becky Hobbs. Can you tell us some of the differences creatively between recording solo and recording as part of a duo?
Well, the deal like with Joe Stampley, we just found out that we could sing harmony together. Joe could sing harmony with me, and it really fit. And it also gave us a chance to record songs that was kind of out of our territory, funny things and different things like that. So it actually expanded where we record things that we normally wouldn't have recorded, like Good Old Boys and things like that. And it was great. And then Cheating Situation we recorded, and Janie come in and just nailed it. I mean, Janie Fricke is just so good.
Right. And
it was just a pleasure. And then I found the song, and Judy Bailey came in and sang with me, and things just happened, you know, and it wasn't nothing we planned, but things just happened that way.
Right. And over the late 70s through the mid 80s, you were a very consistent sight on the country music charts with over 20 different charted singles during this time. Which of these songs would you say had the biggest impact on you personally, and which would you say was your favorite?
Well, back then, Bandy the Rodeo Clown definitely was a big one, but Cheating Situation was Song of the Year in '79. And so those two especially really had an impact on my career.
And that was Song of the Year for the CMAs, correct?
Right. Uh-huh.
Oh, that's a
ACM. No, ACM. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the ACMs. That's correct.
Yeah.
So in the mid '80s, you switched record labels and producers. How did this change? How did this change your sound? And looking back, would you say this was a change for the better?
Well, it was a time actually when all the labels were changing over, and there's a bunch of us that got dropped from Columbia. Man, I look around and here goes Johnny Cash and Marty Robbins and all these, and they just changed their label totally and changed different people. And so it just really got me. I mean, it just crushed me. I've been recording all those years. And I went out and spent a year looking for songs and trying to find songs. And I found some songs, one called You Haven't Heard the Last of Me, and then I found Till I'm Too Old to Die Young.
Right.
And I went in and recorded with Jared Kennedy, and we signed with MCA Curb, and Till I'm Too Old to Die Young was the #1 song and brought my career back. And I had several records then. I had Americana, and so I had a little second run at it there.
And so it was kind of like rejuvenating the career and breathing life into it again.
Right. Uh-huh.
So speaking of that, I know that you released your first album in 10 years this past July 29th, and that album is called Lucky Me. Why was there such a hiatus between records, and how does this one differ than prior albums?
Well, it was my first. I had recorded several things, live albums. I had 2 live albums during that time, and I cut some things over here in Branson with my band, but the Nashville studio album I hadn't cut in a long time, and I wanted to go back in and record it like we used to get some of the players that played on our records and cut real country music like we have all along. So we got Pig Robbins, and Jimmy Capps produced it, and Jimmy and we got Pig Robbins and Charlie McCoy and Hoot Hester, who we just lost. He passed away. But we got these great players that we had years ago, and we put them together with the new technology. And I'm very proud of this album. It means a lot to me. I thought it come off really good, and it's doing really well for us, and I'm just tickled to death.
Well, one thing I've always liked about Moe Bandy is your voice has always been so rich and clear. And I mean, that's why I'm such a fan of yours, sir. And this is ever so apparent in the title track of the album, which again is called Lucky Me, which honestly takes me back to some of your earlier hits. How have you maintained that incredible voice over the years?
Well, I've been blessed. I've really been blessed. I haven't had many voice problems at all. And I apparently, when I was younger, I learned how to sing the correct way, I guess. So I have not had any voice problems, but I just keep singing. I feel like I'm singing as good or better than I ever have. And so I've been lucky. As many shows and years that I've been singing, I've been very lucky to not have vocal problems.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I've listened to several songs on the album, but I would say that probably I think Lucky Me is the first one too, right? The first one that plays.
First one, and it's a kind of a Western swing song, and that's kind of what I was raised around in Texas, and
right.
Had the honor and thrill years ago of my little band backing up Bob Wills, and so we love that kind of music.
Well, after listening to your record, I got to tell you, I'm very excited to hear that the fiddle and pedal steel are featured so heavily on the record. I want to thank you, sir, for keeping traditional country music alive. My question is, can you tell us the struggle between staying true to your roots or recording what the public seems to want more of? In other words, how can we make classic traditional country more marketable for the younger generations out there?
Well, the thing about it is, if I sang "Mary Had a Little Lamb," it'd be country.
Right.
That's me. And but I'm finding that traveling around the country that people really want traditional country music. There's a big market for it.
Yeah, I agree.
And the music has changed a lot. I don't know if we've ever changed this far. And nothing against it. These kids are making all kinds of money and doing all kinds of stuff. and they've taken country music to a whole different level. I mean, but I think we got to keep our country music, traditional country music, alive because there's a whole market out there for it.
Right.
And I see it. I see kids at my concerts. I see kids. I see grandkids. I see people that have raised their kids on country music, and they like it.
Yeah, and you know, we just recently spoke to a buddy of yours, Gene Watson, was on our show maybe about a month and a half ago, and he was, you know, with his new record, Real Country Music, he was telling us pretty much the same thing, that it's really hard to not just keep the music alive, but also put out what people will actually buy. And you know,
exactly,
with the music changing so much with the younger artists, you know, and adding more of a popish feel to the country music, I would imagine it's probably a little bit tougher on you guys that are still trying to kind of plug along with the roots of country music.
Well, it is a little bit. The thing that I see with country music today is if you take a lot of the singers, the male singers, you take a lot of them, they all sound the same style. They try to sing like each other.
Right.
And when I was doing it, we had to have a unique sound or we just couldn't do it. If you went in and sounded like Ray Price, I'd tell you, we already have a Ray Price.
Exactly.
So you had to have your own style, and that way we had a variety of sounds coming through country music. But I'm hearing a lot of the vocals nowadays, and I hear young kids that come to me and say, "Listen to my CD," and I'll listen to it, and it sounds just like the other people there. So they've gotten a style now to where when you learn to sing and you follow country music, you go right to that style.
Right.
Like that's the way I'm supposed to do it. So I think we've lost a lot of our uniqueness in the music.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think you know, back in the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure before that, but I mean I remember the 80s and 90s most clearly. If you listen to a country radio station, I mean, you could identify who the singer was on pretty much every song that was played. Just because
immediately.
Right, immediately. I mean, they all had their own distinctness and uniqueness, and you're definitely right in that's kind of gone away with today's country music.
Right, I think. But on the other hand, they're selling 80 billion records and filling up stadiums.
Right, exactly.
Something's working, I guess.
Oh, but I mean, in the same token, though, I mean, when Garth Brooks or George Strait comes on the radio, they're immediately identifiable, and I mean, people are still, you know, crazy about them.
Yes, definitely.
So on your album, you collaborate with several fellow legends on the album, including the Oak Ridge Boys, Riders in the Sky, and Ricky Skaggs. As a producer, you were executive producer on the album as well. As a producer and artist, what's the creative process like with so many brilliant musical minds working together?
Well, it's just neat. I love to be around other people and get their ideas. And everybody's been in the business so much. They're a lot of them geniuses as far as making a certain sound. And so I love to be around real successful singers and entertainers, because it just, and when they came in and sang on my record, it just added a bunch to it, and I was just honored they did it.
Right. Again, I mean, if you're out there and you like traditional country music, you guys definitely want to pick up a copy of Lucky Me by Moe Bandy. Where can folks purchase a copy of this great album, and what social media pages should folks follow Moe Bandy on?
You can get it with moebandy.com, or we have the Moe Bandy app, and it's a free app. If you have a smartphone, and it's called Moe Bandy app, and through those you can order, and it'll give you all the information.
Very cool. So that's moebandy.com. Again, the album is called Lucky Me. And also, I wanted you to tell us a little bit more about a new production you and Gene Watson are working on. Gene had told us a little bit about the Gene and Moe Show, and that was several months ago. But I'm hoping maybe you might have more information about where people might be able to watch that show and what the show might be about.
Well, see, I'm doing the Moe and Gene show. He's doing the Gene and Moe show.
And see, I've heard that. I've heard that.
We joke about that. Now, actually, we did 6 shows a couple weeks ago, and we're filming as we go. Going around the country. Where he's in the chorus, all kind of chorus. I'm in the bull riding and rodeo, and so we go out and do things like that. And of course, our music is the main thing. The music. Gene and I have had enough music to last a long time. And but I think it's going to be a very interesting TV show. We're hoping to get it on, hopefully, by the end of the year or first of next year. And we're really excited about it.
And where can folks watch that show?
It should be on RFD. And we had a 1-hour special on there, and it went really well. And we're going to do 26 episodes, and then they'll rerun them. So we'll have a year's worth of shows, and Gene and I really have fun. We rib each other and joke, and but the main thing, like I say, is our records that we've had over the years. Between he and I, we've had a lot of records, so it'll be a lot of music.
And you still very busy, TV and touring and still recording. And I love to see y'all, still staying busy, still getting the music out there. We have a couple of fan questions. What we like to do out on our Facebook page is we'll put out a post in response for fan questions for each episode that we do, and we got a couple for you if you don't mind.
Okay.
Mr. Neil Laney wants to know, what was your best moment in music, and what is your favorite song to sing?
Well, I have so many best moments. I have a bunch. It's hard to pick out one. Of course, being on the Grand Ole Opry the first time was an honor and a thrill. Singing at the White House for President Bush was probably the biggest thrill I've ever had in my life. I did that several times.
Yeah, you did that at least twice that I read about.
Yeah, and then I spent the night there twice. And
wow,
I've had so many things over the years that's just been an honor and a thrill, and been so blessed. But Americana, the song Americana, has been really big for me, and I've had thousands of people at different shows singing it all with me, and I've just had so many great moments. It's unbelievable.
And what would you say was your favorite song to sing? Would it be Americana?
My favorite song is to Bandy the Rodeo Clown, but I think the song that I've recorded that says more than anything in my whole life is Till I'm Too Old to Die Young. Awesome. It has the line in there, let me watch my children go to see what they become. That is so big of a line. I've been so blessed to have that song, and it's been a good one for me.
Okay, and our last question from a fan as well, from Edward Hancock II. He wants you to know he's a huge fan of yours, Mr. Bandy, and he asks, how did the song "Good Old Boys" come about with you and Joe Stampley? Was it written for y'all, or was it something you guys just discovered?
We were over in Europe, Joe and I. We were doing a big show over in Europe, and we were traveling. And Joe said, Moe and Joe, that sounded like Waylon and Willie. And we got to joking about that. And Joe's piano player, Ainsley Fleetwood, was with us. And we talked about, well, maybe one of these days we'll record something. So a few days later, Ainsley Fleetwood came up and said, I got that song. And we said, what song? He said, I got the song for you and Joe. And he played Good Old Boys. And I told him we need a chorus for that. So he wrote the chorus, and Joe came in on one of my sessions, and we cut it. And the record company went crazy about it. And so it went from there.
That's an awesome story. I love questions like that. You know, like Gene was telling us that when they recorded Farewell Party, they did it in one take, and it's crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy how things just kind of happen by accident sometimes in the music business, and then explode.
Yeah.
You know, huge.
That same thing happened with Hank Williams, Who Wrote My Life. We recorded that in one take.
Wow.
And there were some times when a song was magic, and you just it just fit. And when you did it, all the players are grooving at the right time, and it just happens, and you listen to it and you say, man, I can't beat that.
Right.
You know?
It's probably pretty unique. It's like a scratch ticket almost.
It is very unique.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as a longtime country music fan, Moe Bandy continues to prove with his new record that he is timeless. Mr. Bandy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me today, and we wish you lots of blessings in the future, sir.
Thank you so much, and it's really good talking with you.
Yeah, no problem. We hope to catch a show with you maybe soon if you're in the East Texas area. Okay, great. All right, you have a great day, sir. Okay, thank you a lot. All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
We are ETX ROCKS!